You'll be speaking.
Well, let me welcome you to the April 21, 2022 meeting of the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. The committee is meeting in person with some members participating remotely. Public access to the meeting is available via the YouTube video platform. At this time, I'll conduct a roll call of attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond present when your name is called. Neil Kerwin, present. Karina Edmonds.
Present.
Charles Fogarty.
Present.
Richard Humphrey. Matthew Lenz.
Present.
Susan Petrovas.
Present.
Bethany Jenkins.
Present.
Margot Cook. Michael McNally. Mark Parlange. Determine there's a quota present, so we can proceed. I first like to remind everybody that for the benefit of our virtual audience and the note taker, clearly identify yourself whenever you make a comment, make a motion, or second a motion. I'd like to begin by welcoming Dr. Bethany Jenkins to the Academic Affairs and Research Committee. Dr. Jenkins was appointed to the position by President Parlange as the faculty representative. She's a URI professor of cell and molecular biology and professor of oceanography. She's currently director of the Biological Environmental Sciences graduate program. Her research program itself focuses on marine microorganisms in environments around the world, including Narragansett Bay and Antarctica. She teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in microbiology and bioinformatics. A member of the Graduate Council, past member of the Faculty Senate, past member of the Research Advisory Committee to the URI Division of Research and Economic Development. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good. Now, may I have a motion to accept the agenda that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees accept the agenda for the meeting of April 21, 2022.
So moved.
Okay. Take a vote. All in favor, say yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Now, we will act to approve the minutes of our January 2022 meeting. You'll find those at enclosure 2A. May I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the January 2022 meeting of the committee?
Probably so moved.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. We'll vote. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, fine. The motion is approved. Now, I'm going to ask the forbearance of the committee to change the order sequence of the agenda items so that we can deal with the action items before the board first, and then to the very important reports of the Chief Academic Officer and the Vice President for Research and Economic Development. We'll close the meeting this afternoon with a discussion of the committee charter and the committee's calendar of consideration. So our first action item is the review of awarding undergraduate and graduate degrees, diplomas, and certificates. These are honors to be conferred by the president to the candidates who have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2022 term and have been approved by the faculty of the University of Rhode Island and recommendation for approval to the URI Board of Trustees. You'll find this material at enclosure 6A. I'll ask the provost if she has any further comment on it.
I don't, Chair Kerwin. I would just update the committee that usually we have about 40 or 4,500 graduates. every year and about 600 to 700 graduate students graduating every year. So I hope you would approve us awarding these degrees that will come in May.
Okay. All right. So may I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the awarding of undergraduate and graduate degrees, diplomas, certificates, and honors to be conferred by the president to the candidates who will have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2022 term and who have been approved by the faculty of the University of Rhode Island as recommended and presented in enclosure 6A.
Bethany Jenkins, so moved.
Okay. I have a second.
Second, Sue Petrovas.
Okay. I'll ask all in favor, say yes.
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 All opposed? The motion carries. The second motion is the approval of the Bachelor of Science in Nutrition within the College of Health Sciences, recommendation for approval by the Board of Trustees of the same. And I will refer to Provost Beauvais, who I think has colleague here who will assist.
Yes, our colleagues are here virtually to answer any questions you might have about the program, but I can give a quick overview. And what this program is really making a degree, a BS degree, out of a currently existing sub-plan of the nutrition and dietetics degree. And what they're doing is developing the BS degree at this point for the nutrition program to make it more flexible and a more transparent degree for the students who want to major in the nutrition area rather than the dietetics. And I think in the past, the students have been a bit confused by the two different sub-plans, and this will make it clear for the students and also will give the students some clear guidance in advising on what they can do with a nutrition degree as opposed to the dietitian degree. And I welcome my colleagues back at URI to add anything more that you think would help explain the program if any of you have questions.
Any questions for the provost or colleagues on the campus?
Sure. This is Karina Edmonds. Just wondering how many other schools offer this program at the bachelor's level?
In the New England area, I think there are 3 or 4 other programs that are similar to this. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar in the nutrition programs. In Rhode Island, I don't think we have any other nutrition programs, but I'll let my colleagues speak to that issue. Sarah or Cynthia, could you respond?
This is Sarah Larson from Nutrition and Food Sciences. That is correct. There are several public universities in New England that offer a standalone BS in nutrition and a standalone BS in dietetics. And in the state of Rhode Island, we are the only university that offers this current degree or new degrees.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there questions from the committee? Can I confirm that my understanding is that this new degree will not have a budget consequence? Is that correct?
That's correct. The courses are pretty much the same. The carousel of courses to offer the courses are the same. So there shouldn't be any changes. There may be one new course, but I think that actually one of the courses will be removed as a capstone, so it'll allow more flexibility. But as far as what this documentation says, no, there will be no increase in resources to offer it.
Thank you. Any other questions before we seek a motion? All right, can I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the creation of a new Bachelor of Science in Nutrition within the College of Health Sciences as recommended and presented in enclosure 6B. May I have a motion to that effect?
Bethany
Motion.
Jenkins, so moved.
Karina Edmonds, second.
I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed?
Yes.
All opposed? The motion carries. I now have a rather somber request of the committee, and that is to review the awarding of posthumous degrees to 4 students at the 2022 commencement. Those students are Ms. Leah Ribner Martin of the College of Environmental and Life Sciences, Ms. Catherine Bergman of the College of Environmental and Life Sciences, Mr. Brian Banner, College of Business, Mr. Maximus Julian, College of Business. Provost Beauvais, are there anything you would like to add to this?
Just to let you know that when a student passes away, when they're a student at URI and they've earned 50% or more of their credits, the chair can recommend to the dean, who recommends to the president that the student receive a degree posthumously. All of these students had completed more than 50% of their degree and unfortunately passed away during the past year. Just so that you understand the policy that we use for posthumous degrees.
Do we have questions from the committee on the motion? If not, may I receive a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the awarding of posthumous academic degrees to the following students at the commencement for 2022. They are Ms. Leah Ribner Martin, College of Environment and Life Sciences, Ms. Catherine Bergman, College of Environment and Life Sciences, Mr. Brian Banner, College of Business, Mr. Maximus Julian, College of Business. May I have a second?
Bethany Jenkins, second.
Is on a vote, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? That motion carries. Now, we'll move to the information items. I thank the committee for their forbearance on the change in the sequence of the agenda. And now turn to Provost Beauvais for her report as the Chief Academic Officer.
Thank you, Chair Kerwin. I'll try to be brief, although I get excited talking about my work. But I just really wanted to update you on a few items that we've been working on since I was last with you back in February. We're doing a number of searches. It seems like I joined the provost's office when a number of searches had to be completed. And we are diligently working on those searches. Three very important ones. There are many more that I could talk about, but 3 very important ones are the executive director of the Ryan Institute, the dean of the College of Business, and the dean of the College of University College and Academic Success. First, the Ryan Institute executive director search. We do have a search firm helping us. And we are in the process, the search committee now is in place, is in process of reviewing some of the candidates. So we will have some candidates on campus, hopefully in May, maybe June, for that search. And we fully hope to have a new executive director coming up in the fall, if everything works out appropriately. The dean of the College of Business search, for those of you who may not have known, our current dean, Maling Ibrahimpour, is stepping down as of June 30th and returning to the faculty. He announced in, I think, early February that he was doing that. And I have put an interim person in the position now that I've made the appointment and notified the college this past week. Is Associate Dean Shaw Chen will be taking over while we search for a permanent College of Business dean. The search firm Isaacson Miller is helping us with that search, and we will commence that search in May. So hopefully we'll have a new dean in place no later than January of 2023. The University College and Academic Success Dean search is ongoing. We have a search committee in place, and that is, hopefully we'll have a person in place by the fall. So for those important searches, and there are many others going on, we have, everything is started and in place. Search committee's working. Okay, I'll just keep on, unless you have questions, I'll keep going through my update.
Okay, any questions on that point on the searches?
Right now, Dean LaBeauty, the Associate Vice President, who oversees University College, is playing both roles right now. So he's continuing that role until a new dean is in place. Thank you for saying that. Okay, the next item to update you on is our 5th year or interim report to NECI, our accreditation agency for the university. We had our comprehensive evaluation back in 2017, so we are currently due for turning in our interim report in the 5th year. And that report is being worked on by a working group. They are working on the 9 different standards. There are drafts of the standards available in a working drive. Pretty soon we will have a draft, I think in June, and the final report is due in August. So the board will get the final report in August that we're sending to NECI. I just wanted to make sure you knew that was going on in place. And we're moving right along with that.
Laura, can I ask just a quick question? The process for the interim report, is it comparable in terms of consultation as the full reaccreditation report would be?
No, in fact, they limit the page numbers. So that's what one of our difficulties is, limiting to the number of pages that we have for that final report. For the 9 standards, it's, except for one, Standard 8, which is on educational effectiveness, they actually want just a couple of pages as an update. And there are certain items they wanted us to consider from our comprehensive, like looking at our planning process and our governance. We have the Board of Trustees now that we didn't have back then. So we're set with discussing those items. They also wanted to talk about Gen Ed our Gen Ed program and how that was being assessed. So there's a little bit of extra information on those particular items from the comprehensive report. But for Standard 8, they like an essay on what we're doing on educational effectiveness. So most of the report is focused on that. Okay. So it is a little bit different. They don't come out for a visit. It is just a report submitted.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on the interim report? Okay, Laura, go ahead.
And kind of in conjunction with this report, JCAP, the Joint Committee on Academic Planning, is looking at the mission statement. That's not a requirement for NECI, but in our last report, they said, you said you were going to be looking at the mission soon for potential revision. So we are doing that concurrently with doing this NECI report. So a subcommittee of JCAP is working on that. And concurrently, we have another group that's working on what we call our cornerstone values. We've had a set of cornerstone values in place since the late 1990s. So we're looking to update those at the same time. And we have a process whereby we're looking at the update of the mission and update of the values at the same time. We're currently getting feedback from the community, and what we'll do is fold that into the strategic planning process that's going on. So a lot of things that have to do with getting our accreditation report, doing our strategic planning, potential update of our mission, and potential update of our cornerstone values. So a lot of reboot happening on a number of things. Okay, there are any questions? I'll just move on. Just to give you an update on faculty reviews, we've just finished going through 60 promotion and tenure reviews. We completed them last Friday. We will next move on, and you will receive the tenure. You will approve tenure decisions at our next meeting. There are probably about a little around 20 to 25 tenure cases that you'll be seeing in June. But we're continuing to evaluate our pre-tenure faculty. We do pre-tenure reviews in their 4th year just to make sure they're on track. We're getting ready to do those, and then we'll be getting ready to do reviews of teaching professors. So a lot of reviews of faculty are ongoing at this point. The honorary degree process. What we had decided to do, given the board's new policy on honorary degrees, is to look, I chair the honorary degree committee. We decided to update our process too. So what we are doing, we have a draft at this point that we'll finalize by the end of the week. But what we wanted to do is update the criteria to be more consistent with the board policy. So we have done that. And we are also beginning the process earlier. We felt like, at least in this past year and perhaps in years in the past, that it was a little tight getting the nominations to the board in January. So we're kind of moving the process forward so that we get nominations to the board or recommendations to the board at our November meeting. So that'll impact some of our talk about the calendar a little bit later. But we're doing that because we think that it'll give us more time to notify people and also get commencement speakers by having the process move forward to November rather than January. And let's see what else I have. At our last meeting, we talked about our diversity initiatives. We did manage to hire 2 assistant deans of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the College of Arts and Sciences and in GSO. They have already started, and so we're pleased to have them. And the Academic Affairs Diversity Task Force is working on 4 strategies in our anti-Black, anti-racism action agenda for change, and they will be making their recommendations in May for what we work on next year. So just giving you an update on where we are on those. And I know in the June meeting, we give a fuller update on our diversity issues and on our faculty and student numbers with regard to diversity and equity. On the global issues, we've had a number of visits by some important people. We just, in March, had the Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast in Ghana visit us to talk about signing a new MOU of working with them. And Bethany is familiar with this. We have a program that is a dual degree program that allows our Ghanaian students to pursue a PhD in the biological and environmental sciences program. And we're also looking to expand some of our collaborations with pharmacy, engineering, nursing, and so forth. It was a very fun visit with them. And then coming up on May 18th, we have a big visit coming up with our colleagues from Indonesia to celebrate 50 years of research and work in Indonesia. So we're hosting several Indonesian provincial governors, senior ministry officials, members of the Rhode Island National Congressional Delegation will be there. So it'll be a big celebration on May 17th and to not only honor our graduates that have come through these programs, but also to solidify our relationship with Indonesia after 50 years of working with them. And then another global, a good thing is that the State Department has announced just this past week that it will decouple travel risk advisories from the COVID rates. So now we just go back to our regular being careful of going to countries that have travel advisory ratings. And I think Peter has also loosened up some of his requirements. So that's a good thing. That means that we may, be giving back to some level of normality. So that's my global report. And then I have a COVID report. I was just talking to Mr. Fogarty earlier today and asking him how his school had done with regard to COVID. And I'm pleased to say that we've done fairly well with our managing COVID on campus this year. We have removed masks everywhere now, and I know that you all are thrilled about that. We did it in a gradual way such that first, we removed masks everywhere but the classroom, and then several weeks after we removed the masks everywhere on campus, which was late March, we also allowed the faculty to make a decision whether or not they would allow their students to remove the masks in class. And I think it's been a very smooth transition back to somewhat normality, and we've managed to keep our rates low. We are going back to only symptomatic testing at the end of the semester, and that will be only for students as things used to be before COVID. So we're very happy to get to some semblance of more normality. We are in the process of making decisions about what we're going to do in the fall, because that'll be here sooner than you think. And then my last plea for you is commencement. Commencement coming up on May 20th to 22nd. Please know that you are all invited, and I hope that we'll see you there for our commencement, since you just approved all those degrees. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Provost Beauvais before she cedes the floor? Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. Now we have the report of the Vice President for Research and Economic Development. Peter?
Thank you, Chair Kerwin. Thank you. Is this working? Yeah. Okay. What I'd like to do is provide a few brief updates on things that are of significance that have happened on the research side of the House since the last board meeting. I won't go into great detail about items that I discussed in detail at the last board meeting, but I will mention a couple things that have transpired. First, as you might recall from my last presentation, we were just about to submit, or had just submitted, our EPSCoR Track 1 award back to NSF for another 5 years of funding. That unfortunately was not funded. It received good scores, and we feel confident that we'll be able to revise and resubmit. In general, the comments from the reviewers suggested that we were not as focused as we should be on specific types of contaminants that we intend to center our efforts on with respect to contamination of our coastal waters and oceans. I think the reason behind that was because the EPSCoR program is intended to involve a number of universities and colleges across the state, including primarily undergraduate teaching institutions. And we were trying to essentially be all things to all parties in order to remain as inclusive as we had been the last time. And I think the lesson learned is that we have to be more focused. It means that the partners that we will carry forward into the resubmission may change. That, obviously is a tricky situation, but it's one that we need to handle. We are applying for and feel very confident that we will receive a bridge grant for $1 million to carry the program forward for the next year while we revise and resubmit. Frankly, the revision is due into the NSF in August, which is just a few short months from now. So the team is very hard at work, and we expect the bridge grant to come through and we can maintain our programs as they currently are and our staffing as it currently is until the revision goes in and we hear this time next year about an award. The focus will be more clear in the area of plastics and plastic contamination, particularly micro and nanoplastic contamination and remediation. This is an area of emerging strength for this university. In fact, I was just on a call this morning with faculty, probably about 15 faculty from about 4 or 5 of our colleges, making plans related to our collab that we are launching. And we just received an earmark for $1 million from our federal delegation who championed it, particularly Senator Reed. And that earmark will go to the establishment and the sustainability of the collab for the next 3 years with appropriate staffing. Related to this, and then I'll stop for questions. We just participated in an international summit on plastics pollution that was hosted by the French Embassy and French Consulate, along with the Global Council for Science and the Environment held in New York City. We participated with members of the French National Assembly, Undersecretary, I'm going to block on her name right now. It'll come to me, from our State Department and Senator Whitehouse. And we have a unique opportunity to host the follow-up meeting for this summit which we're tentatively planning a year from now, this next spring, to be held at URI, possibly on the Narragansett Bay campus. And it will involve a number of different countries and will be timed to occur during the middle of a new round of UN treaty negotiations on plastics that's expected to kick off this August and be concluded in 2024. So the meeting that we will host, I think, will be very high visibility and perfectly timed to have some significant impact on the discussion pertaining to those negotiations by the United Nations. So I think our footprint in this area is growing very nicely, and it's exciting. And I know that our grant productivity in this area is growing accordingly as well.
Peter, just to give us some history on EPSCoR, the last cycle, which was funded, was that funded on the first submission, or did you ever revise and resubmit on that one as well?
That's a great question. We actually had to revise and resubmit on that one as well. We had a bridge grant fund for 1 year, and so we've been through this
Or
before.
it's not unusual?
It's not unusual at all.
And the revise and resubmit, is it by invitation, or is it assumed that candidates will have the opportunity to do that?
It's a discussion with the program officer based on the summary reviews, and our reviews ranged from excellent to very good. So we've been encouraged to resubmit.
The issue of partners, will this significantly reduce the number of potential partners that we'll be working with?
Not significantly, but there will be likely 1 or 2 institutions that simply won't have the depth of expertise or knowledge to be able to continue.
Okay, thank you.
I would say that both Rhode Island School of Design and Brown University will absolutely remain significant partners for EPSCoR, probably Providence College as well. We're unsure of the others at this point. So next, I wanted to give you a brief update on the submission of our Build Back Better Regional Challenge Grant to the Economic Development Agency. I spoke at length about this at the last board meeting, and the submission went in quite successfully. We are now at work responding to initial rounds of questions that are being posed back to us by the EDA. We expected pages of questions. We ended up receiving 7, and 3 or 4 of them I would count as lowballs. So we are, I think, in a good place.
So 7 questions, not 7 pages.
That's exactly right, 7 questions. So we feel that we're in a good place in terms of this initial round of reviewing. We have been asked by the EDA to reduce the overall budget. What we have found is that every applicant of the 60 applicants who submitted budgets over 50 million were asked to reduce to at least 50 million or less. The reason for this is that the EDA seems to be adopting a posture where they want to spread the wealth across the applicants as much as they can. So they don't really want to award much more to any one institution or applicant. We also have the sensitivity that the Secretary of Commerce is our former governor, and we don't want to look like we're going in with the largest ask and put anyone in any awkward position. So we are revising our application. We're looking hard at the projects that are listed, and there are several projects that are really more statewide efforts that have much less to do with URI than others. And we are in negotiations with the Department of Commerce about the state co-funding some of those projects to relieve some of the burden on the budget for us. So I think those are going okay.
So are we officially optimistic?
Yes. Yes, we are. We are optimistic, absolutely. And there are some interesting spin-offs already. The lead for the Research Foundation, who's been working the hardest on this, Pete Rumsey, who's our Chief Business Development Officer, has been invited to a invitation-only matchmaking event with companies and investors in the blue ocean economy space to pitch. It's a pitch session that really is only available to the 60 applicants. So, we're excited about that. And we had a recent visit with MIT Lincoln Labs, where they became so excited in the Smart Bay concept that we have developed as part of this application that they, when we left the room, I was pulled aside and told that one of their own seed grants that they want to award, they are now earmarking for the University of Rhode Island. So that was a useful afternoon. More to the point, I think MIT Lincoln Labs will be a fantastic collaborator with us going forward. So, yeah, any questions about that?
When do we expect some kind of definitive word?
I believe that the funds by act of Congress have to be awarded by the end of September. So by the time we have this next board meeting, we will probably know where we are. Yeah.
Okay.
Next, we successfully in the Division of Research completed external audits on the structure and resourcing for our Office's sponsored programs, or OSP, and the Office of Research Development. These are two offices that are under considerable stress and strain as a result of staffing limitations. And we really wanted to benchmark our performance and our staffing levels and our organizational structure against regional and national peers, including aspirational peers. Those audits were very important to us. They're revealing, the conclusions are revealing. I am working with our president and with others in senior leadership to explore how we can improve the services provided by both offices. With respect to that, and at the specific request of President Parlange, I'd like to make a few comments about the limitations that we're facing at this time with respect to the budget and financial pressures. The Division of Research and the budget that supports these offices that I mentioned has not appreciably changed since 2011. So for the past 11 years, whereas our grant portfolio has nearly doubled in the same period of time. We have roughly the same staffing in the division as we had in 2011. And we have only been able to increase our staffing by one individual in our Office of Sponsored Programs over the same period of time. Again, during the same period, the flow of grants has essentially doubled. I would invite this committee and be happy to share our budgets for this past fiscal year and the current fiscal year for a deep dive into how the funds are managed. Obviously, that wouldn't be a topic for today, but suffice it to say that we have at this point already overspent our budget for the fiscal 23 year, which does not start until July. What this means is that I am unable to provide any additional match support on any large grants going forward for this next fiscal year. And we cannot really take action to staff these offices appropriately and provide the grant preparation services that are really necessary for our faculty to accomplish what they need to accomplish until the situation is rectified. I do have specific concerns that our faculty are not being assisted or incentivized to prepare grants, new grant funding, as we would like them to do, and I think as they would like to do for their own careers. Grant application preparation is a hugely time-consuming, laborious, difficult process, and we do not provide the level of support that's really needed for our faculty to be successful. At an organizational level, I have some concerns that we will begin to see a diminishment of enthusiasm by faculty to submit new grants, and perhaps we may see a loss of talent. So there are going to be some difficult choices that we have to make programmatically for this next fiscal year. And some of the impact of the budget pressure that I am seeing will not be fully felt until fiscal year 24. But this is something that I wanted to bring to this committee's attention at Dr. Perlange's request. And I know that he'll be speaking to the board about this more tomorrow.
Yeah, so in addition to support the faculty members at the front end, how do we stand with compliance at the back?
In terms of compliance, I think we're doing an adequate job. I think we are understaffed in our ability to conduct not-for-cause audits, which is standard practice at most institutions, as you know. We have had several audits over the past couple of years from NSF, from NOAA. I think those are the two agencies I recall offhand. These are extremely difficult audits to respond to that take a huge amount of time and effort. And although Vice President Ryder is not here today to speak, I will offer on her behalf that some of the audit function is really under her office of sponsored cost accounting, which is similarly understaffed. So I don't feel that we're in danger. I do feel that we more at the front end are in danger of losing good talent. It's also worth noting that the work of grants administrators in sponsored projects is a difficult job. It's very detail oriented. It is time consuming, and it is essentially, these are burnout jobs. And if we don't support our staff adequately, if we can't hire at competitive rates, if we can't do more to retain the talent, we're going to have a harder time filling these roles. And I'm seeing that at this point.
Okay, any questions, additional questions for Peter on this? This is a very, very important issue.
I would like to speak to this issue, please. Bethany Jenkins, I'm a faculty representative, and I'd like to bring some just support Vice President Snyder and all of the information that he brought forward. And I've done some forensics amongst my faculty colleagues on this very issue, and I'm hearing exactly the same thing. We have so much potential. You've heard how research has grown at the university. There's already disincentives to carrying and managing larger grant loads because there's just not the human resources to support it. So I've heard from faculty, I'd be writing and being able to successfully compete for more NIH funding, but I just can't take the workload to do it. So there's money being left on the table for significant, these are 5-year awards of major pay lines that people are leaving behind, trying to find faculty to take on leadership roles in, you've heard about EPSCoR, large, either interdisciplinary or multi-institutional grants. There's no way anybody can do that without adequate research support. So it's a very hard cap on research productivity to have an understaffed research office. It's one of our vital human resources at the university.
Primary obstacle that you face, lack of support in those offices, does it extend well to the incentive systems other than getting clerical and administrative assistance?
Well, it's
The fact that you feel that the research expectations include securing grants and contracts.
and it's part of our promotion. Significant in any of the colleges that are in the STEM fields, it's considered part of the advancement and promotion.
Independent of their academic interest and career.
Right. Yeah.
But what we are finding, what I'm finding, is that for our more senior faculty who are have achieved tenure, full professor, and are at the height of their careers and the most able to bring in external funding, significant funding. The lack of incentives is absolutely an issue as well. I had one faculty member explain to me quite candidly that, look, I have my grant that pays for my graduate students. It pays for my summer salary. I can't make any more than that. I don't have enough help from the research office. Why on earth would I bother applying for more grants?
How much more human resource do you estimate you need? Like how many more bodies, folks that to support?
I'd like to take a little more time to answer that question. I haven't had that opportunity, but I would say that I have a plan now in place as a result of the external audit for research development that we need approximately 4 positions in that office, and I probably need 2 more in the Office of Sponsored Programs. It's about 6 positions. In addition to that, we have some colleges at the university that are well-staffed at the college level for grant support, and we have some colleges that are truly understaffed and need that support as well. And really the model that works best is that spoke and hub model where you have support staff in the colleges that know the faculty well and are working hands-on with them, and then everything gets fed into the central office.
Are we able to do like a forensic approach to see how we compare with our peer institutions on this?
I've done that.
You
I
have that? All right. Could you share that with us?
I guess I could.
If you can, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a very important point. It's not an uncommon complaint with institutions, I think, as we all know. But an institution that has to, on paper, consider getting the kind of resources that you go through reporting.
Yeah.
It's a real concern.
Yeah.
Something that the board should be aware of.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just, Matt, to answer your question just a little bit more, you'll see in one of the reports that I can share that in comparison to 6 other institutions that we chose to compare ourselves with, like UConn, UVM, University of New Hampshire, University of Maine, and as an aspirational comparator, University of Michigan, we have a ratio in our office of 1 person to every 51 faculty, and the average for all other institutions combined is 1 to 36. So we're way over that.
Yeah, that I think needs to be addressed, I think, Chair.
Well,
Thank you. Peter, I know when we hired Mark as president, one of the strong points that he had brought was his ability to bring in big research dollars. I know the university has done well. Is the president, is the administration looking to put a proposal forward to the board, whether it's with incentives or additional spending that we can look forward to having some action taken on this? Because it would be, I think we need to support the faculty.
Yeah.
And again, Ron does a great job of resources has, but if we can bring more dollars in, it makes a lot of sense to move in that direction.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to speak for the president, but I will say that I know that he's trying to look at and pull every lever possible. I think, to Dr. Jenkins' point, we are leaving money on the table now, and it's really just a manpower issue. It's, we need to both incentivize our faculty to go after big awards that frankly take them away from their daily work. You have to understand that most every faculty member has their own line of research that they are in love with and they care about. And it's their purpose for being academics is to pursue the driving questions that motivates them. And when we ask them to take something else on that is way over and above that, like these big institutional grants, program center grants, program project grants, we have to provide support to encourage them to do that. We need to do that first in order to bring the dollars in. It's a vicious circle that we're in.
A follow-up question on the incentives. Are these things that the university can do in and of itself, or are they also restricted by state laws in that respect?
I guess I would defer to Anne Marie and to others who are more able to speak to that than I.
It depends on, I think it depends on what you mean by incentives. We have a task force of deans looking into teaching loads and other kinds of issues. They're getting ready to finalize the report, but one thing that we've noticed in some areas, there's much more teaching going on, which acts as a disincentive to working on research. Others, it's more right size. So we're doing an analysis of all of those, how teaching and research impact each other, basically, and service requirements. So we're doing some of that analysis now in preparation for the strategic plan. But as far as incentives, monetary incentives, I think the faculty, I could be speaking out in Dr. Jenkins better to speak. I think if they had the supports to work on the grants, that's almost enough incentive that they would, because they enjoy, I mean, this is what they do. I think if you provide the supports in place to take care of the paperwork and the filing and all of that Peter has mentioned in terms of the hirings that he needs, then that's almost the incentive that faculty need. And the freedom to do that if they're freed up from other teaching and service requirements.
A couple quick points to just comment on Provost Beauvais' previous comment is these aren't just clerical things. These are contractual obligations with other universities, dealing with subcontracting paperwork, subawardees, these are, I think a lot of faculty feel completely over their head when they're looking, down the barrel of these kinds of, grant and contract obligations that are not just, pushing paperwork forward. That's the first part. And the second part I really want to emphasize is these grants and laboratories provide massive amounts of experiential learning for our undergraduates. It's probably some of the best undergraduate education we can offer here. And really the supplies and the research environment and the mentoring and the support of the graduate students, that's all coming out of grant funding. So if our research drops or is disincentivized, we're offering fewer really life-changing experiences for our undergraduates.
As you'll see, when we get to what will probably be a brief discussion of the committee's chart, even though we're not the finance committee, we do have an obligation as the academic affairs research committee to be cognizant and speak to support the academic affairs institutions. So I can commit that this committee will focus on that. Peter, you had one on the right.
Oh, no, that'll do it for today. Yeah.
Did you mention the plastics, the international summit?
I did mention that, yeah, we're all
That was
set.
part of the earlier point about the French.
Yeah, I decided to reorder them.
All right, any final questions before we move on? Okay, did we say we could get the charter and calendar up on the screen? Is that right?
Yes.
Let me give you some background on this. One of our obligations as a committee, and this is an obligation shared by all the board committees, is that we annually review the committee charter for two basic reasons. One, to ensure that we are meeting our own expectations in terms of the subject matter that we cover in the course of an academic year or for want of a better word, a board year. And then the second, specifically with regard to the charter, is whether the charter itself requires editing, updating, something that's needed because changes have occurred in the academic program or in other sort of external conditions. If we start with the membership of the committee, I do believe the membership is, based on my experience, properly described to the extent that it needs to be specified any further. What we have had to do, and we've had it with the help of the secretary of the board, is edit the document to take into account the recent creation of a committee on student life and athletics. For those of you who started life on the board in this committee, you know that we had academic, we had academic affairs research, student life, and athletics. And, from the very outset, the board was aware of the fact that that range of responsibility was unrealistic for a committee our size, and a committee that's not going to get any larger given the size of the full board. So there is now a committee on student life and athletics, whose charter consists of much of what we contributed from our own charter to them. So what I'm going to propose, because of just in terms of time constraints for this, and then we'll get to the calendar in a second, is that if the members of the committee would take some time to review the charter in detail. We now have a revision that reflects the creation of the new Student Life and Athletics Committee. And based on the language, this most contemporary language, recommend any changes to me that you think are appropriate. Either within the fundamental jurisdiction of the committee or some element of one of those jurisdictional items. And if we could get those, I'll remind the committee, I can remind the committee by email on the timing, but if we could get these revisions back to me by the middle of May, then we'd have enough time to get them on the agenda for the June meeting. Some of you may have had a chance to take a look at the charter. Any thoughts on it off the top of your heads that we ought to take into account? Remember, these charters were originally written at the very birth of the board itself. So we're still a work in progress and still learning as we go along. But I think that this new document is much closer to the operating reality of the committee and the responsibilities of the committee. Apropos of that, we then distilled from the charter a calendar to ensure that the committee at some point during the course of the year considers the major elements of the charter. And the calendar has also needed revision based on the creation of the new Student Life and Athletics Committee. So we now have an altered calendar as well. And I'm going to ask the committee to conduct the same review. Peter mentioned something prior to our meeting about whether or not we would be discussing fundamental research questions often enough, given this outline, whether it deserves at least one other mention in one other meeting. As you'll see, the distribution of responsibility is a bit lumpy. Some of the meetings are pretty heavy and some of them are a little bit lighter. So if we could find a way perhaps to smooth out that distribution of responsibility across the various meetings and take into account, any activity you feel that we have not given adequate attention to in this our first year. I do think this issue that we close this, our substantive discussions with about the adequacy of funding for the academic heart of the institution is something that this committee needs to be able to articulate as one of its prime obligations. And then I need to be able to communicate that back to the full board and to my colleague who chairs the finance committee, so that they're aware of what we consider the most important funding issues in a given budget year. I mean, when you're on the cusp of a brand new strategic plan, one that's going to coincides with the arrival of the new president, being very explicit about how well a given budget funds a set of strategic priorities is primary, perhaps not our primary obligation, but we've got an obligation to be sure that those things are considered seriously and consistently. So, I'm still teaching, so you all have homework, all right? And the homework is to take a look at both these documents. Suggest to me any improvements, that you think is appropriate. With the secretary's help, we'll find a way to circulate those so that everybody gets to see what everyone else is suggesting. And we'll put together, some type of proposal for consideration at the June meeting. And then we'll be good for at least another year till something else changes. As it almost inevitably would. Any conversation about that process? Any discussion? If not, I believe the next item is a motion to adjourn. Is that right? I think we've covered all the items
Very good, Mr. Chairman.
on time, under budget.
Very efficient.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Matt Len, so moved.
Uh,
Carlos Ogby, second?
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Oh, by the way, the next meeting, the Academic Affairs Committee is on June 23rd, 2022. See you all there.
Yes.